Act like a winner even when the scoreboard says you're losing. Work like a monster, especially when no one's watching. Because success doesn't come to the most talented, it comes to the most convinced. You don't wait for proof to behave like it's yours. You move like it already is. That's what winners do. They carry a frequency so intense, the world has no choice but to match it. And monsters? Monsters don't need motivation. They grind out of instinct. They don't talk about effort, they bleed it. This is the dual identity of greatness. The confidence of a champion, the work ethic of a beast. You've got to walk into the room like your name belongs on the wall and then build the wall yourself. You can't wait to be picked. You have to appoint yourself. You have to wake up with a mindset so rooted, the storm starts fearing you. Winners think different. They don't wonder if they'll make it, they act like they already did. They don't waste time in gossip, drama, or self-pity because every minute away from the mission is a deposit into regret. And monsters, they don't sleep on purpose. They don't scroll through excuses. They go dark, they go deep, and they come back with results. So what are you? Are you still waiting for your season? Or are you building so relentlessly that your season starts begging to arrive? You see, the real ones, the ones who get it, who make it, who own it, they don't need reminders. They wake up reminded. They don't need deadlines. They create momentum. Every move they make is strategic. Every day is a battle. Every task is a test. And they don't skip tests. They study the pain and turn it into power. Act like a winner, not to fool others, but to remind yourself what lives inside you. You weren't born to crawl around mediocrity, waiting for someone to hand you a gold star. You were built to dominate your lane, to walk into every day with the head high, the eyes focused, and the work ethic of someone who's at war with average. Because average is easy. It's marketed to you. It's safe. It's the default setting for people who treat life like a lottery instead of a contract. But you're not average. You can't afford average. Your future kids, your last name, your purpose, they deserve excellence. So stop hoping for a break and start becoming the break others pray for. Winners don't chase the opportunity. They become so undeniable that opportunity chases them. And monsters, they don't brag about the process. They live in it. They sweat in silence. They fail fast, recover faster. They devour the discomfort that would derail weaker minds. If you want the crown, don't ask for it. Earn it in the dark. Earn it when no one's clapping. Earn it when your name's not called. Earn it in the brutal, beautiful boredom of repetition. That's where monsters are made. That's where winners become undeniable. Undeniable. Not because you shouted louder, not because you faked it better, but because your consistency outlived their doubt. Because when others rested, you studied. When others paused, you pushed. When others looked for comfort, you built capacity. Act like a winner every single day, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but when it's quiet. Because that's when the real winners emerge. They show up before the world claps. They deliver before they're ready. They move like the outcome already exists. You don't become great by accident. You become great by agreement. A sacred, silent agreement with your future self that says, I won't abandon you for distraction. I won't betray you for temporary comfort. I will fight for you. I will build you brick by relentless brick. And when the monster inside hears that, it wakes up. It stops asking, how long? And starts declaring, as long as it takes. Because the monster isn't about rage. It's about relentlessness. A calculated savagery. A calm chaos. A work rate so precise, so powerful, so persistent. It breaks resistance before resistance even shows up. You see, monsters don't rely on motivation. They rely on motion. Because momentum is sacred. And every time you show up to the gym, to the business, to the blank page, to the hard conversation, you prove one thing. You're still in the fight. And that's what winners understand. They don't need a perfect record. They need a perfect return rate. Fall, return. Doubt, return. Fail, return. Because they don't fear losing. They fear staying down. You've got to fall in love with the work so hard that the world can't tell if you're tired or just getting started. You've got to grind with such clarity that your schedule starts shaping itself around your standards. You've got to move with such purpose that even your silence sounds like a plan. Because when you act like a winner and work like a monster, you stop asking for time and start taking territory. Territory of mindset. Territory of emotion. Territory of your entire destiny. This is the frequency of the elite. The mindset of those who know they were never meant to live average. So, from this moment forward, there are no breaks. There are no reruns. There are no, I'll do it tomorrows. There's only now. Only here. Only the next rep. Now go. Act like the crown is already on your head. Work like the world is already watching. Move like nothing can stop you. Because if you keep going, nothing will. Because if you keep going, nothing will. Not fear, not fatigue, not failure dressed in temporary delay. Nothing will stop you. Because you've decided you belong at the top. You've decided that no one will out-prepare you. No one will out-discipline you. No one will stay in the fire longer than you. Because you're not in this for applause. You're in this for alignment. You're not chasing attention. You're building authority. Every early morning, every late night, every lonely moment you choose progress over popularity. You are writing a story the world will one day study. And when they ask how you made it, you won't say luck. You won't say timing. You'll say this. I acted like a winner when I had nothing. I worked like a monster when it would have been easier to quit. And I never let my foot off the gas because my vision was too sacred to slow down. That's how legends are built. Not on stages, in the shadows, not by the loud, by the locked in. So lock in. Lock in when it's boring. Lock in when it's painful. Lock in when your old life begs you to come back and you refuse. Because average is always available. Comfort is always calling. But if you want greatness, if you want legacy, if you want to live a life your future self will thank you, for you better be ready to outwork everyone. Not once, not when it's trending. Every damn day. Because monsters don't get days off. Winners don't take breaks from becoming. You've got one shot, and the clock is always ticking. So ask yourself, are you acting like the best is already yours? Are you working like someone who doesn't need a backup plan? Are you showing up like your destiny is non-negotiable? If not, start now. There's a monster in you. Unleash it. And there's a winner in you. Walk like it. Walk like every step echoes with purpose. Like the ground beneath your feet knows it's carrying someone different. Someone who no longer entertains the habits of the past. Someone who no longer flinches when pressure knocks. Someone who doesn't hope for the win but expects it. Because when you act like a winner, your actions become proof. You don't need to convince people anymore. You don't even need to convince yourself. Your consistency is your conviction. And when you work like a monster, your calendar becomes sacred. There are no wasted hours. No, I'm too tired days. No, let me think about it windows. Because monsters don't wait for energy. They create momentum. And every time you move, the world takes notice. Not with a spotlight, not with a cheer, but with a shift. The air changes when you show up. The pace increases when you enter. The silence speaks when you execute without noise, because that's what separates the rare few. They don't talk about their dreams. They build them quietly and let the results do the talking. You've reached a point now where there's no going back. You've seen what happens when you go all in. You've tasted your potential. And once you've tasted it, you can't stomach small anymore. You can't shrink anymore. You can't kind of want it anymore. You either go all in or you betray everything you were designed to become. So stop waiting for signs. You are the sign. Stop waiting for momentum. You are the momentum. From this moment forward, you move like it's already yours. You speak like it's already done. You think, breathe, walk, and execute like your legacy is on the line, because it is. Act like a winner. Work like a monster. And let every cell in your body scream, I didn't come this far to almost make it. I came to conquer everything they said I couldn't touch. Now go earn it. Every rep, every second, every brick, until your future looks back and says, that's the moment everything changed. That's the moment everything changed. Not when the money came. Not when the followers showed up. Not when the crowd applauded. It changed the moment you did. The moment you drew a line in the sand and said, from here on out, I'm not acting like I want it. I'm acting like I own it. That shift is everything. It's the beginning of becoming someone unrecognizable to your past self. Someone who doesn't negotiate with distractions. Someone who doesn't get shaken by the size of the mountain because they already decided it's theirs to climb. And when the climb gets steep, you don't stop. You don't slow down. You tighten your grip and increase your pace. Because you're not here to be remembered for what you could have done. You're here to be etched into history for what you refuse to leave undone. That's what winners do. They finish. They don't dabble. They dominate. They don't whisper their vision. They scream it with sweat. And monsters, they don't chase motivation. They run on mission. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. You're not here to impress strangers online. You're here to become someone your future family brags about. You're not here to wish and wait. You're here to build like it's already written. And the way you build is by showing up like there's no plan B, no lifeline, no escape hatch, just you, your standards, your obsession, and a promise to yourself that you'll never break again. That's your power now. The world can take everything from you, your comfort, your title, your audience, but it can't take who you've become. So protect it, live it, expand it, act like a winner, work like a monster, and never return to anything less. Because once you've seen your own potential, fully activate a draw reel, roaring, you can't unsee it. You can't unfeel what it's like to be locked in. You can't unknow the rhythm of full commitment. And you'll never again be satisfied with anything that smells like average. You've stepped beyond that now. You've crossed into the zone where people don't just succeed, they ascend. Because when you act like a winner and work like a monster, you stop playing life like a game and start treating it like a campaign of conquest. Not to conquer others, but to conquer the only thing that ever mattered, your lesser self. The one who used to hit snooze. The one who used to compromise. The one who used to wait for perfect before starting. That version of you is dead now, buried under the weight of 1,000 silent victories. Gone beneath the footsteps of early mornings and late nights that no one will ever see, but you'll never forget. Because that's where champions are born. In the shadows. In the hours you wanted to quit. In the moments where the only voice left was the one inside, whispering, keep going, because one day the world will see what we already know. And now that day is here. You've built the habits. You've cultivated the mindset. You've made a lifestyle out of doing what others only talk about. Now it's time to finish what you started. No more halfway. No more half belief. No more half life. From this moment forward, it's full force, full clarity, full ownership of everything you touch. You show up like it's already done. You work like every second matters. You walk like your name already belongs in the history books. Because it does. Because you're not just building results anymore. You're building reputation. You're building reality. You're building the kind of life that says, this was no accident. This was earned. This was a decision, followed by action, followed by obsession, followed by legacy. So leave nothing on the table. Say nothing you don't mean. Do nothing without intention. Let your presence speak before your words ever do. Let your consistency be louder than your claims. Let your work ethic outlive your name. Because in the end, the world doesn't remember the talented. It remembers the tireless. The ones who acted like winners, the ones who worked like monsters and never looked back. Confidence is not volume. It's not loudness. It's not performance. It's not charisma painted onto insecurity. Real confidence is quiet power. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to impress. It doesn't need the spotlight to feel seen because it's already grounded in something unshakable. Identity. You don't find confidence in the world. You find it the moment you stop borrowing your worth from it. The moment you stop negotiating your value. The moment you stop needing someone else to say, you're enough, before you start acting like you are. That's the truth. Most won't tell you confidence is not something you earn. It's something you remember because you were born with it. Born with clarity, born with presence, born with light. You ever watch a child? They don't ask if they're allowed to dance. They don't apologize for laughing too loud. They don't need a reason to believe in themselves. They just do. And then life happens. Comparison happens. Failure, rejection, systems that want you to shrink, to conform, to sit down and stay quiet. And so, little by little, the light dims. Not because it's gone, but because you stop feeding it. But confidence doesn't die. It waits. It waits beneath the noise. It waits beneath the conditioning. It waits beneath the version of you that the world told you to become. And the moment you stop chasing confidence and start choosing it, you remember. You remember who you are. You remember what you're made of. You remember that you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to be liked to be valid. You don't need to be celebrated to be certain. Because confidence is not a result of your environment. It's a decision made within it. You don't need evidence. You are the evidence. And when you walk with that truth, everything shifts. You speak with more clarity. You move with more certainty. You don't need to force connection because people feel you're knowing. You don't need to dominate because you own your space without apology. That's what true confidence is. It's sovereignty. It's alignment. It's integrity with your own essence. It's the refusal to abandon yourself even in rooms that don't recognize your value yet. Especially in those rooms. Because most people's version of confidence is borrowed. It's a costume they wear when they feel affirmed. But the moment someone disagrees, it crumbles. That's not confidence. That's validation addiction. But your confidence, it doesn't come from agreement. It comes from truth. You don't need to fight to be seen. You see yourself. You don't need to argue for your worth. You embody it. And when people feel that, they won't know what to do with it because most have never met someone who is no longer at war with themselves. So be that person, the one who doesn't shrink to avoid making others uncomfortable, the one who doesn't dim to fit the room, the one who doesn't need to shout to be heard because your very presence says, I am here and I am whole. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your light. You don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to step into who you already are. Just step, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, because confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act anyway. It's the decision to rise, to speak, to stand, to say, I may not have all the answers. I may not know the whole path, but I belong here because I chose to show up. And that kind of confidence, it doesn't need armor. It doesn't need performance. It doesn't need to look like anyone else's because it's rooted in truth, rooted in awareness, rooted in the simple sacred knowing that you are enough, not because you've earned it, but because you exist. And existence is your proof. So stop waiting to become confident. Remember that you already are. That every time you doubted yourself, you still kept going. That every time you were afraid, you still showed up. that every time they told you to shrink something in you, refused? That's confidence. And it was never something you lacked. It was something you forgot. Now is the time to remember. Now is the time to walk again in the fullness of your being. Now is the time to breathe again deep, whole, and unafraid. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs presence. It needs people who move from within, who don't chase validation, who don't negotiate their worth, who simply walk as if they belong because they do. That's what confidence is. Not louder, not bigger, just true. And when you walk in truth, the world moves around you, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped moving around it. Confidence is the quiet knowing that you are the foundation, not the decoration. It's not the way you walk into a room needing attention. It's the way the room adjusts to your presence because you brought energy, not ego. You don't chase the crowd. You create gravity. And gravity doesn't ask to be felt, it is felt. Confidence is not about never questioning yourself. It's about no longer abandoning yourself when the questions come. It's about standing steady when the doubts whisper. When the critics get loud, when the path disappears under your feet and all you've got is your breath and your belief. It's in that moment, not the highlight reel, where confidence is forged. Not in the applause, but in the absence of it. Because real confidence is forged in fire. The fire of rejection, of isolation, of being misunderstood because you chose authenticity over acceptance. But hear me, it's worth it. Every lonely step, every quiet battle, every silent yes you said to your purpose when no one clapped for it. Because that kind of confidence, it becomes untouchable. It's not just how you move, it's why. You don't speak to be heard, you speak because you have something to say. You don't walk to be seen, you walk because you refuse to stay still. You don't rise to impress them, you rise because it's who you are. And that's the difference between confidence and performance. Performance asks, do you like me? Confidence says, I like me, I respect me. I know who I am, with or without your validation. Confidence doesn't require consensus. It only requires clarity. Clarity of who you are, what you value, what you're here to build, and what you're no longer willing to compromise. Confidence is not some armor you wear over your insecurity. It's the decision to stop pretending you have to prove anything, because you don't. You don't owe the world a version of yourself that's edited for approval. You owe the world the truth. And the truth is, you are worthy. You are powerful. You are needed as you are. Not when you get there. Not when you're perfect. Not when they finally recognize it. Now, right now, in this moment, in your flaws, in your fire, in your becoming, you are already more than enough. And your confidence isn't a destination. It's a recognition, a sacred remembering that you were never broken. You were just buried under expectations that were never yours to carry. But you're not buried anymore. You're rising. And you're rising with a strength that no applause can give you and no rejection can take away. Because when you rise in truth, when you rise in alignment, when you rise in you fully, finally, and freely, you don't ask for space. You take it. You don't hope to be chosen. You choose yourself. And you don't wait to be seen. Because now you see you. And that is the moment everything changes. That is the day confidence stops being something you reach for and becomes something you live from. Because you finally remember you never had to become confident. You just had to remember who you are. And who you are is enough. Unfiltered, unpolished, unfinished, but undeniable. Because confidence is not perfection. It's permission. Permission to take up space without apology. Permission to speak without shrinking your truth. Permission to show up not because you've earned it, but because you were born for it. And once you give yourself that permission, you stop waiting for the world to affirm you. You affirm yourself. You stop bending to fit rooms that were never built for you. You build your own room. You become the architect of your life, brick by brick, word by word, decision by decision. And every time you choose truth over comfort, clarity over confusion, and discipline over doubt, you reinforce the foundation of confidence you stand on. Confidence is built, not declared. It's the result of small, consistent choices, the kind no one sees. The extra rep, the early wake-up, the call you make when fear tells you to delay, the boundary you keep when history tells you to fold, the version of you that rises again after failing in silence. That's the you no one applauds. But that's the you who becomes untouchable. That's the you who doesn't need hype because you're built on habit. That's the you who doesn't need the spotlight because your light was never borrowed. It came from within. It came from the decision to love yourself enough to stop performing and start embodying, to stop reacting and start rising, to stop asking for someone to notice and start noticing yourself. This world has taught you that confidence comes from achievement, that it's something external, something earned after you look a certain way, speak a certain way, succeed a certain way. But that's a lie. Confidence is not at the top of the mountain. It's at the bottom when you take the first step. When you decide, I will climb, I will go, even if I'm scared. I will speak, even if my voice shakes. I will stand, not because I feel strong, but because I've decided I'm done staying small. That's real confidence. It's not something you wait for. It's something you choose. And when you choose it over and over again, even in doubt, even in darkness, even in the absence of affirmation, it becomes who you are. Not an act, not an attitude, but an identity. Because you were never meant to borrow confidence. You were meant to remember it. You were meant to walk in the fullness of your own presence and say, this is who I am. Not because you said so, but because I finally stopped needing you to. That is the freedom confidence brings. Not arrogance, not ego, but equilibrium, the grounded, unshakable state of knowing, I am here, I am whole, and I no longer have to prove it to anyone, not even to myself. Because when confidence becomes your baseline, not your goal, not your performance, but your baseline, life responds differently. Opportunities flow to you, not because you're trying to impress, but because you radiate alignment. People listen differently, not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. You stop chasing things that used to feel urgent. You stop explaining your every move. You stop needing to be seen because you've already been found by the only person who matters, you. And from that place, you walk through life with a different frequency, not faster, not louder, just truer. You trust your intuition. You trust your decisions. You trust your process. And that trust becomes your edge. Because while others are waiting for clarity to begin, you begin and create clarity along the way. While others hesitate, waiting for evidence, you move because you are the evidence. While others question, who am I to do this? You declare, who am I not to? You stop hesitating at the threshold of your calling. You stop waiting for the moment to feel perfect. You stop waiting for the fear to go away. And you realize confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is the mastery of motion in spite of it. It's moving through the resistance. It's choosing to rise with shaky hands. It's deciding to speak when your breath is unsteady. It's leading, even if your voice cracks. Because real confidence doesn't say, I've got it all together. It says, even if I don't, I'm still going. And that's the voice the world needs to hear. Not the voice of perfection, the voice of permission, the voice of someone who gave themselves the freedom to show up fully human and still move like a leader, still love like a force, still rise like it's written in their bones. That's the you you're becoming. Not a version that mimics strength, a version that remembers it. Because it was never lost, only layered, buried under 1,000 moments where you were told to sit down, to be quiet, to shrink, to wait. But no more. No more waiting to feel ready. No more trading truth for approval. No more searching for yourself in places that were never designed to reflect your light. Because now, you're not reflecting anything. You're radiating. And when you radiate from truth, not performance, not perfection, but presence, you become unshakable, unmoved by rejection, unaffected by praise, rooted in your own value. And that's when everything changes. That's when confidence is no longer something you wear, it's something you are. And when you are confidence, not wearing it, not faking it, not summoning it, but living it, everything that once felt difficult becomes natural. You speak without second-guessing every word. You walk without wondering who's watching. You act without waiting for applause. Because now you move for one reason only. You trust yourself. That trust changes how you carry weight. You don't collapse under pressure, you convert it. You don't run from resistance. You rise through it. You don't seek to prove your worth. You protect it. Confidence is the shield that keeps your soul intact in a world designed to fracture it. It's what allows you to be soft without being weak, to be kind without being small, to be open without being broken. Because when you're confident, you don't need to armor up in defensiveness. You don't need to pretend you're untouchable. You don't need to act like you don't care. You care deeply, and that's why you show up fully. You cry without shame. You fail without folding. You start again without apology. Because confidence is not about never falling. It's about always returning to your breath, returning to your path, returning to your power. It's about reclaiming your name when the world tried to rename you. It's about standing in your own light after years of trying to fit into someone else's shadow. It's about saying, I know who I am, even if you don't, and that's enough. So if you've lost it, good. That means you get to rebuild it. And this time, not based on how you look, not based on what you've achieved, not based on who says you're worthy, but based on truth. A truth so anchored in your core that no storm can move it. A truth so ancient, it doesn't need to be loud. A truth so deep it radiates from silence. This is the kind of confidence that can't be taught, only remembered. And now you remember. Not because someone gave it to you, but because you chose to stop hiding from what's always been yours. So walk, not to get there faster, but to show yourself you never needed to run. Speak, not to be heard, but to honor the voice that was always worthy of speaking. Be seen, not to impress, but to remind the world what it looks like when someone finally becomes themselves. That is what confidence is. That is who you are. So now you stop performing. You stop polishing every edge to fit their comfort. You stop packaging yourself in palatable pieces just to be digestible to people who were never meant to sit at your table. Confidence says, I'm not here to be consumed, I'm here to be complete. No more shrinking to make others feel big. No more waiting to be picked. No more searching for mirrors in places that only hold distortion. Because when you finally see yourself clearly, truly, fully, the world becomes a canvas, not a courtroom. You don't step out to be judged. You step out to create, to build, to move with reverence for the divine blueprint you carry within you. And when that blueprint becomes your compass, you stop chasing paths made by other people. You carve your own. You walk a little slower, not because you're hesitant, but because every step is intentional. You speak with less noise, not because you're unsure, but because every word is rooted. You no longer measure your worth by how loud you are, how visible you are, how approved you are, because you've met the quiet strength of knowing, I am not for everyone, but I am for me. And that is enough. That is where real confidence lives, not in the echo of others' applause, but in the stillness of your own self-respect. So stop asking for it. Stop asking for permission to shine, to lead, to speak, to stand. You are the permission. You are the fire. You are the rhythm, the roar, the calm, the storm, all in one. You are the echo of every choice you didn't back down from. You are the sum of every moment you stood up, even shaking. You are the proof. So live like it. Walk like it. Speak like it. Be it. Not for them, but because that's who you've always been, underneath the noise. You don't have to become confident. You just have to stop pretending you're not. Because underneath all the fear, all the doubt, all the false humility, there's a voice that's always known. You were born for this. Now, act like it. And never forget, be confident, not because the world says so, not because the outcome is certain, but because that is who you are. And who you are is enough.